Hello, good afternoon, or good morning.
Selamat siang. It's easier.
Good to have you all with us. Good to see you, Frank. So would you like to, yes, would you like to have a few words about what the session is about for the audiences?
This afternoon, we would like to show you some of the work we have been doing on the treatment, but also the prevention and detection of acute malnutrition in Indonesia. And by showing what we have been doing, we hope we can reach out to other institutes in Indonesia and in the Netherlands and in France to see where we can collaborate to address this huge public health problem in Indonesia, namely acute malnutrition in children.
Thank you. And as you correctly mentioned, this is a very important issue as we are touching upon the generations in front of us, ahead of us, the future generations. How do we deal with this large issue as early as possible? That is probably one of the key for a successful future of this generation. So shall we begin with the session, Frank?
Yes.
So the first speaker today is Dr. Noreta Damayanti. She is from the Muhammad Hussein Teaching Hospital from Palembang, Indonesia. And the title of her talk is Overview of Current SAM Guidelines, especially in Indonesia, and some of the plans to update them. And perhaps you can hear what are the latest updates when it comes to these guidelines. I think she is not available to talk directly. There's a video that we can play for the audience. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Hello everyone, I am Noreta Damayanti Fauzi, and it is an honor for me to be in this event. And please allow me to share my screen. This is the title of my presentation, an overview of the management of acute malnutrition in Indonesian children. I have nothing to declare on this presentation, and I will talk about the guideline on acute malnutrition, especially for super acute malnutrition. And at the end of the presentation, there are some recommendations that might be useful for the implementation of the guideline. Indonesia is facing the triple burden of malnutrition, and acute malnutrition is one of the burdens. It affects more than 2 million children under 5 years of age in Indonesia. For your information, acute malnutrition or wasting is defined when a child has weight for length or weight for height less than -2 standard deviation based on WHO growth chart. Specifically for children under 5 years of age, here is the example of the chart. It is blue chart for a boy and -2 standard deviation indicated by the red line on the chart. If we have a look at the wasting prevalence in Indonesia, it decreased from 10.2% in 2018 to 7.1% in 2021. However, the prevalence increased from 7.1% to 8.5% in 2023. This number at 0.5% is quite far from the goal that's set by the government for this year's target, which is 7%. And WHO make a category for the wasting prevalence for a nation or a country. The low level of wasting means that the country has the prevalence of wasting less than 5%, and medium if it is between 5 to 10, and high if it is between 10 to 15%, and very high if it is more than or equal to 15%. And Indonesia, as a big country, we have 38 provinces, and the wasting prevalence is vary between one province to another province. And I try to put the wasting prevalence on this map, and the green color indicated that the province has a low prevalence of wasting, which is only one province, is Bali. It means that Bali has a prevalence of wasting less than 5%, and the yellow colors indicated the moderate or medium prevalence of wasting, and the red colors indicated the high prevalence of wasting. And we can see here that the most affected region in Indonesia having the high prevalence of wasting is the eastern part of Indonesia. So the increased prevalence of wasting for the 17 out of 38 provinces in Indonesia should be a wake-up call for the government and also for all of the stakeholders to improve or to overcome the problem. And if we talk about the guideline, Indonesia has a guideline for the severe malnutrition. Started from the guideline in 2011 and then revised in 2013. The both guidelines talk about the severe acute malnutrition or SAM management. And at that time, all of the children with SAM had to be hospitalized. In 2019, the Ministry of Health released a guideline that covers for subject from community mobilization, and then inpatient and outpatient criteria for some children, and also the criteria and management of MAM or moderate acute malnutrition to the monitoring and evaluation system. In 2022, the Ministry of Health integrated the same guideline to IMCI approach. IMCI is the abbreviation of the Integrated Management of Childhood Illness, also released by WHO, in an effort to increase the early detection of acute malnutrition. And for the moderate acute malnutrition, in 2023, the Ministry of Health released the technical instruction for the provision of the locally based supplementary foods for children under 5 years of age and also pregnant women. There were barriers to the implementation course, and the barriers start from the parental or family resistant hospitalization when the children indicated to be hospitalized, and also the lack of availability of the formula in the hospital, and the lack of technical guidance and government regulation on the community mobilization, and also the low case finding efforts. And also there was a weakness in the referral system, especially after the children hospitalized and they're discharged and returned to their home. The monitoring was low, and the children become easily malnourished again. And until now, we don't have a RUTF or reduced F100 or formula for special medical purposes that ready to use by the children at home. And as the integration of the SAM guideline to IMCI approach, based on the evaluation done by the BRIN last year, the application of the new approach was also suboptimal. And we have to do something about it. We need to improve the implementation of the guideline, and the policy is needed in some section of the guideline. In this picture, I try to make a brief summary of the section that policy needed to increase the implementation. In this case, we can start from the community mobilization in early detection of acute malnutrition. It is not only SAM, because SAM is the final condition of the acute malnutrition. So we can start from the underweight, and then for moderate acute malnutrition children, and also the SAM children. And the community mobilization means we involve the mothers or caregiver at the household level. they have to monitor their own children, so they can be helped by the cadres at the posyandu level. And we can use the simple measurement for the household level. And also, policy needed in the hospital level, especially for the referral system. The health insurance for the children and the family has to be fulfilled. And the last part of the policy needed is the ready-to-use therapeutic food for the children, especially for the outpatient treatment. So, as a summary, where are we now? The Ministry of Health, the UNICEF, and experts are collaborating now in updating the SAM guideline based on the WHO 2023 guidelines. And also the Ministry of Health make a massive training for the health workers to implement the IMCI approach to increase the detection of acute malnutrition. And also the Ministry of Health approved the guidelines of the dietary standardization for SAM children, which are F75, F100, and also RUTF. It means that food industry are open to develop the food products for SAM children according to the guidelines, and the government have to be actively involved and stimulate the industry until the standardized foods for acute malnutrition are available across the country. So that's all that I can share in this presentation, and thank you very much for the attention.
Right. So thank you to Dr. Damayanti. I'm afraid she's not with us, but I can touch on that the last part of what she is speaking, of what she was speaking, was that the challenge to provide these RUTF that are crucially needed to deal and address with severe acute malnutrition. And what we have been doing at the center is what I would like to share. So this is the development of a local RUTF at our center, CFAS Center. And this is a team that developed this product. And we are also trying to help deal with or address the figures that we are seeing. For example, here in the past year alone, and because of that COVID pandemic, there was an increase, over 1.7% increase in the number of, especially those that are around about 2 years of age in severe acute malnutrition. So I think it's still relevant when it comes to developing these products to address severe and acute malnutrition in Indonesia. I would like to go through what our center did. And it was a collaboration between many parties, and this proves to be something that is of importance. We worked with a Department of Community Nutrition at the university. Our center itself, we have a strong background when it comes to research and development, product developments, food safety, and so on. And also, importantly, was that we partnered with an international group here, the GAIN, the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, because it was them that showed real interest and invested in getting this project going at the beginning. To try to get the basic formula done, to try to get a prototype going. And then what is also equally important was trying to find a commercial factory, a commercial partner, because at the end of the day, development and productions of these RUTF products, especially in Indonesia, as mentioned by Dr. Damayanti, none is available, especially those at high or large volume for deployment to the millions of children that was previously mentioned. So these are some of the aspects that we had to deal with, some of the questions that guided us in how to develop the products. For example, we looked into the regional products in Cambodia and Vietnam. We looked into what children of the area, local children, are familiar with, what they are unfamiliar with. Could they just be a given paste, for example, or do they want to consume a product that is familiar with them? Snacking, for example, snacking habits. What are the dynamics between the children or the families are like? So these are some of the challenges, some of the questions, and these are some of the answers that we find, and then that guided us into developing the products. There's also other challenges, the nutritional and composition, and also the quality. Where would all the vitamins and minerals come from? Where would these, what would happen to these vitamin mineral premixes? Is there a processing that could minimize the loss of these nutrients, for example? So these are very important questions. And finally, when it comes to the RUTF production itself, what are the specifications of these RUTF? How can the results from our lab scale, how can they translate into a commercial industrial scale, for example? And also, what are the numbers of industries? What particular industries could be involved? Because why are we touching them? Because they have an established system in place that could guarantee the quality and also the safety standards. So this was that this is what happened starting from 2020, 4 years ago. I can't believe it was that long. So we did the collaborations at our university. We got together and then we carried out a systematic review of what all the products, our UTF products, was like. So this is a systematic way of trying to develop the products. And then we did a lab work, the formulations, lab trial, even sensory evaluations in the lab. And then we moved over collaborating with our center where we specialize in productions. So there's a pilot plant trial of the ingredients to be used. And then we talked to PT Java Indo, so that is the factory partner. And then we were very lucky because they were very welcoming. They could tweak some of the formula that would work with their machinery. So that's also another important thing that we learned, was that no matter how good your formula is in the lab, at the end of the day, it needs to be improved. It needs to be troubleshot because it has to work at the machines in the large factories. And so could get a mass production for deployment. So this was some of the pictures that were shot during that year. And it shows the ideal, well, it's an ideal because there was a collaborations between the academics, the university, the private sectors, the industries, and also some of the government, some of the ministries. When they heard of what was going on, they really supported us. And finally, we could get this particular product produced at large scale. So some of the lessons learned when we developed the product was how about the shelf life? Wafer-based products. So wafers are quite they can go soft easily. So will it last the 6 to 24 months that is required from our UTF standards? What about the packaging? What about the serving sizes? Can we use locally available ingredients? Yes, we did. So that was one of the push was trying to make sure that a lot of the ingredients and also the productions are done in the country to minimize costs, to minimize dependence on imports. And at that time in 2022, there was a problem with the global supply chain because of geopolitical instabilities and so on. So there were many lessons learned when we developed that product. And finally, the product did conform to the WHO requirements. We could get all the nutrient requirements done. We could package it in a very safe packaging. And also we did the food safety analyses, and it passed with good flying colors. So that was well, it's expected because we were working with a facility that they really ensure food safety and food quality productions. And finally, what is also important when it comes to local context is that food safety and also halal requirements is very much demanded from these products. So again, this is another lesson learned that we would like to share. And then we did more development. So new groups came in, Colorado State University, IRD, Pat Frank, from the beginning, West Africa, where we tried to incorporate rice bran to the original formula. There were trial and errors. We tried to see whether we can increase the amount of rice bran incorporated into the products here at 7.5% all the way to 10%. And what we learned was that at an industrial production scale, the higher the rice bran shows a higher loss because of the fragility of that wafer casings. But finally, we agreed that 5% rice bran was enough. And so production commenced, and then it was clinically trialed in East Java. I believe we have a colleague who will present on this later on, Sylvia. And then last year, and still continuing, and this is the next avenue in our collaborations, is looking into sustainable resources, fish, for example. So our team, we went ahead and tried to look into some of the locally available and locally popular fish ingredients. So here, for example, snakehead. This is quite well known in Indonesia because it helps with health recovery, with wound recovery, and so on. Our students made flour from this snakehead fish. It shows very good optimal growth in rats, and importantly, if you can see here, I hope you can see the PDS with the negative 111. It shows that it with the protein from this snakehead, it could show the highest cognitive ability from the rats that were made malnourished, and then they were given this RUTF, and it shows a great improvement in completing the classic labyrinth time, so with the lowest time, basically. And we explored more. How about seawater fish, tuna? And we did similar testings here. It shows good improvement in cognitive ability. We did a comparisons between Spanish mackerel, tangri, and also pangasius. So this is a freshwater fish. Again, you can see the numbers on your screen. The tangri, so that is that Spanish mackerel, seawater, with this higher EPA. DHA, omega-3 shows the highest completion time. Sorry, the highest performance in completing that maze labyrinth. And finally, this is some of the work, the latest work that we did was we wanted to see malnourishment in early childhood. Does it correlate with inflammation? We did similarly with a similar model in rodents. But here the ingredients are very different. So with the Spanish mackerel as protein, we also tweaked the different kinds of oil that was added, whether it's sardine, soybean, red palm oil. So interestingly, we found that all the oxidative stress markers in the brain and also in the heart was lowered in all these RUTF treated rats. And also this correlates with the inflammation markers. You can see that in the serum IL-1 beta and also high sensitivity CRP proteins, where fish oil and also red palm oil helps to maintain low inflammation and also low oxidative stress in the brain. So in summary, I think, and we all agree with this, so cooperation between academics, industrial partners, and all stakeholders are very, very important in developing and producing RUTF, especially at affordable volumes. The second one is that local resources show many benefits when incorporated into RUTF products, because they show the optimal growth, they show cognitive developments, even addressing inflammation. So these are very early data, but I believe that with more clinical trials or clinical studies, it's there. I believe Frank will also delve into this particular direction. And also finally here, developments of local RUTF is feasible, especially when involving all stakeholders and also locally available resources. And this one is important. It is an avenue to empower local communities. Why? Because we need to understand the local preferences, the local context, and also to alleviate all the problems, economical, for example, when dealing with malnourishment in the community. So community-based approach is probably the best way to go. And with that, thank you. Okay, and so we shall move on to the Q&A. Is that right, Pat Frank? We have.
That's correct. We have 5 minutes for if there are questions from the audience, if they have things they want to have clarified on those first presentations. But I would like to start first, Pak Pungki. You showed it's very important to work with industry to be able to start producing RUTFs. And I know from experience that getting an RUTF production in place which is viable for industry, it's very, very difficult because I mean, you're dealing with a product which is half medicine, half of food, and finding a profitable way of functioning is always very difficult. Have you discussed with the food industry how that can be put in place in Indonesia? For example, can they use the product, for example, not for treatment, but for prevention or for other target groups like pregnant women or so?
Yes, and this is, well, the Ministry of Health recently published its ruling on RUTF, especially for the country. And now the Ministry of Health is asking us, please could you help talk to the industries? What are their interests? How can the government, motivate industries to produce? There are many scenarios that's being played out, because again, as you mentioned, these products are highly regulated. So whether industries, what kind of benefits, what kind of incentives do they get from governments? Is it a tax break? Is it subsidized products? Whatever. So these are still being explored. But the other thing that I've also heard from industries is that as long as the price match, as long as it makes business sense for them to go into, because they have to do investments and then they also have to think about what are the long-term strategy, is that as long as it makes business sense for them, they have no problem. Some of the industries, some of the companies that I talked to saying like, look, it's okay if we make slightly a loss or it's at break even when we produce products for governments, as long as we're allowed to sell premium products of similar products to the healthy children and so on. So there's that particular consensus. There are also other strategies. So if they can get industries here, can get endorsements from the government, could get channels to a whole network of international customers, then that would make business sense. So perhaps recuperating the losses in the country from potential sales and also potential businesses from other countries. So these are some of the things that are being explored at the moment. Okay. That's very good. That's a very good question. Yes.
Okay. I have one more question. If the audience doesn't have any questions yet, there's this talk about we should produce RUTFs locally? That will, I mean, in every province we have a small factory, or should we produce it centrally? We have one big factory, but then we have the transport cost. What are your thoughts about this?
I think it all depends on how prepared these and the local factories are. Indonesia is a very large place. The infrastructure is very different at different places. Why is this important? Because we are dealing with a product that needs to be food safety wise, it needs to be highly assured, quality and so on. So I understand that because it's a large country, producing it at local sites where it's easily deployed, that makes perfect sense because we don't deal with logistical problems and so on. But then again, some of these areas do they have the factories or the network that can ensure a safe production, or ensuring the quality of the incoming material, and so on? So it's that's moving towards a food supply and food production chain. So that's another thing to think about. But yes, we understand the point. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. If there are no questions from the audience, we can go on to the presentation of Dr. Damayanti, who will show us some results of a study done 2 years ago in Boca on testing the acceptability of locally produced ready-to-use therapeutic foods compared to commercial ones. Dama.
I think you are muted, Budama. Sorry for the technical hiccup, everybody. We're trying to get this sorted out as soon as possible. Please bear with us. But Frank, because of this technicality, do you think it's a good idea to move on to the next speaker? We have Sylvia Barbeza.
We can do that. Yes. Sylvia, are you ready? You're muted, Sylvia.
You're still muted, Sylvia, yes.
Now I am ready. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Great.
Go ahead, Sylvia.
Yes, I will share my presentation. I think it's already there. So I'm here today just to give you good morning, good afternoon, first of all, and to talk about this interesting project and study that with the collaboration of the EU, Amsterdam, IRD, the University of Colorado, Savica, and the CFAST study center as well, we have done in Jember, Indonesia. It's a study based on the importance of rice bran in the ready-to-use therapeutic food, RUTF, for the microbiota target treatment of childhood acute malnutrition. So why we need to reformulate the current product for the treatment of acute malnutrition? Because we still have some limitation around this product. First of all, it's a product that mostly is an imported product, and it's based on a paste with ingredients that can be difficult to be accepted everywhere in the world, such as peanuts and also milk. And there is a problem related to the cost of the treatment. The cost of the treatment, as it is an imported product, can be very high, around $50 per 8-week treatment per child. And this cost is related to the transportation cost and even to some ingredient. And as I mentioned before, we have seen also some organoleptic features that can be a problem in some region in the world. Specifically, in Southeast Asia, we already know that the taste of peanuts and the textures of the paste cannot be acceptable for all the children. And as well, the main focus of these products that have been developed in the early 90s was to gain weight to decrease the mortality risk. So they didn't focus really on the long-term consequence of acute malnutrition and a possible way to address them. One of the possible ways to address this long-term consequence of malnutrition is working on the gut microbiota. So why focus on gut microbiota? Because studies have shown that recovered malnourished children have persisted immature gut microbiota. What is an immature gut microbiota? Is a gut microbiota that is not developed in a proper way, that it's not diverse, that have a loss in positive bacteria that can help the absorption of micronutrients, and a rise in the bacteria with under certain condition can be pathogenic. So that's why we need to focus on it. And then we know as well that malnutrition is not only related to food security, but it's also related to a combination of factors, including diets with low nutrient densities, and also pathogen burden, and even gut mucosal barrier that has some dysfunction. So it's not able to absorb nutrients. In these factors, the intestinal microbiome appears to have a pivotal role. We know that the immature gut microbiome can lead to nutrient malabsorption, as I say, and recurrent intestinal infection, and even acute malnutrition relapse. So that's why we need to work on novel formulation of RUTF, because we need to work with local ingredients and local production to decrease the cost of the treatment and increase the coverage, reach more children in need. And as well, we need novel ingredients, such as, for example, prebiotics, which can address long-term consequences of malnutrition and work even on the microbiota. So what are prebiotics? Prebiotics are food, are substances that we can find in foods, and they are not digested by humans, but that can promote the growth of microorganisms in our intestine and can modify the colonic microbiota. So we see that, and studies have shown that prebiotics has positive effects such as decrease gut inflammation or decrease the risk of infection. For example, we know that we can find these prebiotics in different foods, and such as fruits, vegetables, and other leafy greens, and legumes, nuts, and even in whole grains. And we know that rice bran is part of the whole grains. So why rice bran? That's why we choose to work on rice bran, because of his profile. Is rich in fiber, essential fatty acid, is rich in vitamin E and in several vitamin B as well. And studies have demonstrated that it can protect against enteric pathogens and can cause diarrhea, like salmonella, norovirus, and rotavirus. Can increase nutrient absorption and improve the composition of the microbiome. And as well, it's available in Indonesia and in many countries that use rice as a staple food. So, as I was mentioning before, we have worked in collaboration with many institutions to understand and to compare the efficacy of two products, both of them locally produced, to treat the acute malnutrition. One with rice bran and the other one without rice bran. This study was a double-blind randomized control trial, and it involved 200 children, 105 in the control group and 95 in the group treated with rice bran, that we provide treatment to these children for 8 weeks, and then we follow them up for another 8 weeks. During this time, we collected data on their growth using height, height, weight, but even middle upper circumference that detect acute malnutrition in children. And as well, we collect stool sample and blood sample. The hypothesis of the CIAT studies is based on previous studies that have shown that the utilization of rice bran in healthy children, daily supplementation of rice bran in healthy children, helped improve the microbiome of children, as well have positive impact on their growth. So our hypothesis was that acute malnourished children who receive treatment with rice bran have a more mature microbiome, and as well that both products allow rehabilitation from acute malnutrition with similar weight gain. The results that we are studying for the moment are related to growth. So as you can see from the slide, the RUTF with rice bran enhance the growth of children treated for acute malnutrition. We can see in the slide that the changes in weight for high Z score and weight for age Z scores, which is related to weight, to the age, and to the height of the children, is greater for children treated with the RUTF with rice bran in both graph. And as well, we can see that these changes are greater during the period of the treatment, so in week 4 and week 8. But these changes disappear, well, the difference between the two groups disappear when we stop providing children with the treatment, so with rice bran. This has implication in policies around the treatment of acute malnutrition. We should maybe think about providing a supplementation even after the treatment end. Now, what we want to do is to understand how this growth that we have seen has a relationship with the gut microbiome development. Currently, our colleagues they are studying stool collected from children and blood sample to understand exactly how this relationship is working. As well, other studies from our teams are understanding and analyzing the composition of the RUTF that we have provided and their contribution in terms of nutrient to the health of the children. That will be all for my side, and I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. Please don't go anywhere. We'll have you at the Q&A session. I think we can go back to Ibu Dama's presentation. I think it's all sorted out, so we can play her video. Ibu Dama is also with us, so she'll take your questions. Okay, are we ready? Here we go. Thank you.
Thank you and good day. My apologies for not being able to present this in person as I don't have access to stable internet at the moment, but technology is great and I could record this in advance. Because there were and currently are no RUTF readily available in Indonesia, an efficacy and acceptability study on local recipes of RUTF was implemented in 2021. The study was conducted by Savika Consultancy with technical support from IRD and UNICEF and funded by UNICEF. The main research questions of this study were: are locally produced RUTF products comparable to the global standards in terms of acceptability and efficacy? A total of 5 products was tested. These included a soy milk paste produced by Nutriset in an effort to find a formulation better suited to the Indonesian taste than the peanut-based standard product, which served as a standard for this study. Then there were 3 products that were manufactured in Indonesia: a mung bean-based paste from Indofood, the largest food producer in the country, a thinner mung bean paste produced by the National Health Research and Development Agency, and a wafer filled with a peanut-based paste produced at IPB University in Bogor. The study was conducted in Bogor district, really small here in West Java, just south of Jakarta. We included children aged 6 to 59 months with uncomplicated SAM who passed the appetite test. The children's parents all gave written for informed consent. No children with a body weight less than 4 kilos with severe anemia or severe infection were included, and these were referred to the health system. We also excluded twins and children currently undergoing treatment. Through screening of more than 6,000 children, we found 560 children with SAM. 258 were not eligible, mostly because of complications or because they did not pass the appetite test or their parents didn't approve, so that a total of 302 children were enrolled in the study. And of these, 214 finished until the end. At baseline, general characteristics were collected on each child, including dietary intake, and their height and length was measured, as well as their weight and mid-upper arm circumference, or MUAC, and their hemoglobin concentration. After the baseline data were collected, each child received a week's supply of RUTF based on their body weight as per the Indonesian MOH's guidelines. Mothers were given instructions and counseling throughout the intervention. And then field workers made weekly home visits where they took weight and MUAC measurements, and they recorded consumption and any side effects. Also, they gave the next week's supply of product. Length or height was again measured at 4 and 8 weeks, and hemoglobin and dietary data were collected at 8 weeks. Just over half of the children were boys, and most were older than a year. About half were between 12 and 23 months. Sorry. About half the children had a birth weight of less than 2.5 kilos, and almost a quarter were short at birth. The mean MUAC was 12.2, which means that almost 50% of these children with severe wasting would not have been considered to be at risk when they would have been screened with MUAC alone, as the cutoff for severe malnutrition is 11.5, and even for moderate malnutrition is 12.5. Then during the study, the mothers were asked for their assessment of whether their child liked the product that they were given. They indicated no preference in terms of taste, but preferred the smell of the peanut-based products by Nutriset and IPB, and the color of all the local products and Plum Peanut, but not the soy-based product. However, when we look at refusal by the children to consume the product, the Indofood and the IPB product were the Indofood and the IPB product were significantly better accepted than the soy milk product, and there was no difference with the other two. In short, the local products were at least as acceptable or better acceptable as the standard. So that answered one of the questions. Now, if we look at consumption and weight gain, the children consumed on average between 2.2 and 4.5 kilograms of RUTF over the course of the 8-week intervention. And in line with the acceptability findings, the consumption of the local products was higher than that of the standard and the soy-based product. This difference was statistically significant in the thinner mung bean paste and almost in the wafer group. Average weight gain after the intervention was about 1.5, that's the gray column, was about 1.5 grams per kilogram body weight per day in all the groups. The most weight gain was gained in the first 4 weeks when nutritional status was at its lowest. This overall weight gain, is much lower than the WHO standard of 4 grams per kilograms per day, but it is in line with other outpatient treatment studies in Southeast Asia. Actually, the first 4 weeks, most of the products reached the WHO standard, but the second month compliance was much less. In summary, we can say that the local products were better accepted than the standard product and had the same level of effect on weight gain. The cure rates that I didn't show you met the WHO cutoff of 70% for all products. And when we looked at weight gain corrected for consumption, actually, the Nutriset products seem to be to have a higher nutrient content than the others, but because the compliance for the local products was higher, there was no overall difference. So based on these findings, it is important that RUTF is included in national guidelines for the treatment of SAM. And in fact, new guidelines have recently been issued that include these important products. So now it is time to ensure RUTF is available in the country through local production. In addition, there is a need to explore ways to improve the compliance to obtain optimal results with the treatment. This can be done through intensive counseling and communication efforts or a buddy system as is used in the treatment of TB. Finally, children under 5 with SAM are not the only ones in need of RUTF or similar products, and more research is needed to develop and test different products for different target groups.
Hi, selamat siang. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate you being here for our session. My colleagues have already provided us with valuable insights on diverse malnutrition challenges in Indonesia, the guidelines for addressing severe acute malnutrition, the development of local RUTFs, ready-to-use therapeutic foods, and the testing of these, including their role in improving child microbiomes. And building on that, I'm here to discuss innovations using local ingredients like fish, and how this approach can be economically and sustainably addressed malnutrition, and particularly Indonesia. Pak Puspo also already addressed this a little bit. But before we go into this, I just want to highlight again what a ready-to-use therapeutic food is. So it's usually used as a treatment for severe wasting, and it contains milk as a basis of the protein content, and it has a required amount of vitamins and minerals. It has a long shelf life, and there is no need for preparation. So the products that you see here are products that are globally used. For example, the one on top is a peanut paste, and at the bottom is BP 100, which is a biscuit. But I think that, like Pak Puspo also indicated, local ingredients should be explored much more. And you might ask yourself, why local? Well, food systems include everything from producing to processing to packaging and selling food, and also the eating of food. And Indonesia still heavily relies on food imports with regards to the ready-to-use therapeutic foods. And there, as has been pointed out by several of my colleagues already, often it's not sufficiently available and to high costs. And using local ingredients will strengthen the local food system and the local infrastructure, so as the producing, the processing, and the packaging. It will also lead to a reduction of the cost of the ready-to-use therapeutic foods, and it will increase, it ensures an increase in value adding and thereby contributing to the local economies. In addition, it complements the global food supply system by making the local food supply more resilient in cases of disruptions, for example, like the COVID pandemic. And of course, one of the major benefits is using local ingredients. With using local ingredients is to ensure that these ready-to-use therapeutic foods are also adapted to the local taste and the local preferences. And then why fish? Because fish actually presents itself as an exciting opportunity in this space. Fish is a rich source of high-quality protein, omega-3 fatty acids, essential micronutrients like zinc, iodine, iron. They're all nutrients that are crucial for assessing severe acute malnutrition and to support children in growing and developing. And in fact, a recent Nature series on aquatic animals food sources indicated, or also as well called the blue foods, estimated that increasing aquatic food production, for example, using more fish, could reduce red meat consumption and provide adequate micronutrients for over 150 million people globally. It can replace expensive imported animal products like dairy in RUTFs in a way that is both economical and sustainable, and thereby contributing to food security and more resilient local food systems. According to the Lancet Eat Commission on Sustainable and Healthy Diets, fish is one of the most sustainable animal source foods in terms of environmental and climate impact. And in Indonesia, with its rich aquatic environment, it's in a unique position to harness fish-based RUTFs. Moreover, as the Asian Development Bank reported, Indonesia is highly vulnerable to the impact of climate change, which threatens both agriculture and fisheries, sectors that are vital to their economies. In addition, small-scale fisheries also face challenges like high waste during processing and poor quality products, resulting in loss of income for the fishermen. By improving the fish food chain from sustainable freshwater and marine fish production to reduce waste and better preservation techniques, we can create fish-based RUTFs that both meet nutritional and economic needs. Given this, it's clear that by developing fish-based ready-to-use therapeutic foods, we can address multiple issues at once, improving nutrition, reducing food insecurity, and enhancing resilience in local food systems. We already seen innovative work in this area. As Pak Puspa already pointed out, lots of preliminary work already has been done in Indonesia, and in Cambodia they're even one step further, because Danish Care Foods, in collaboration with the other partners mentioned on the slide, have developed an RUTF called Nutrix, and it's made from dried freshwater fish. Nutrix replaces the important alternatives like plant peanuts by using fish protein instead of milk protein, and it's been sold at 20% lower the cost. This RUTF is the first in the world to use fish protein in therapeutic food, and the World Health Organization has called for more research on alternative proteins in these types of products, like the Nutrix. As you can see, it has the same benefits and it complies with the same regulations as the other globally available RUTFs, but it is using locally sourced ingredients, and that makes a difference in the price, and it's adapted to the local taste and the preferences. So in 2019, over 20 tons of high quality fish was successfully delivered by small-scale enterprises involved in this Nutrix production. And although fish delivery was significantly disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic and the low rainfall during the wet season of 2020, this project demonstrated that the fish-based RUTF can be produced locally, can be produced sustainably, and can be produced affordably. And moreover, it shows again that freshwater fish-based products can improve dietary diversity and offer an accessible solution for the most vulnerable populations. And my slide doesn't want to continue. There it is. So while there still are promising opportunities, of course, the challenges also remain. One of the major issues is safety and shelf life. Fish is highly perishable, and creating a stable, long-lasting RUTF requires innovation in preservation methods, for example, as in drying, along with advanced packaging techniques to maintain freshness. Pak Puspa already talked about this for the Indonesian situation, and in Cambodia, this is also being addressed by focusing on the seasonal nature of the fish and using preservation techniques to make the fish-based products available year-round. Similar strategies could also be further applied in Indonesia, whereby small-scale fisheries are highly dependent on climate-sensitive conditions like drought. And Additionally, to the cultural acceptance, the cultural acceptability of the fish-based RUTF remains a concern. Though fish is a staple in many of the Southeast Asian diets, there might be reluctance to consume processed fish in therapeutic foods. To address this, as has been pointed out already, community engagement and education campaigns are critical. Early trials, so as the one that Bu Damayanti just indicated in the Bogor province, show promising results, but scaling up efforts will require deeper collaboration with local communities. In conclusion, fish-based RUTFs have the potential to improve food security, to reduce malnutrition, and to bolster local economies in a sustainable manner. They provide a crucial alternative to the imported therapeutic foods, addressing both nutrition and affordability concerns. And as we move forward, it's clear that local ingredients like fish can play a pivotal role in transforming food systems in Indonesia and beyond. But to truly make an impact, we need a continued collaboration between researchers, governments, local producers, consumers, to ensure that these innovations reach the ones that need them the most. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marinka. This afternoon, we've been talking a lot about treatment of acute malnutrition. But I want to take you one step further, or one step aside maybe, and that is that for Indonesia, we don't only need treatment, we also need prevention, and we need detection. We need early detection of children who are malnourished. And that was already one of the things Ibu Etta showed in the first presentation, that finding children in the community is still a problem. How do we detect acute malnutrition? How do we say one child is malnourished or not? Well, for WHO, it's relatively simple. They said, well, there are two anthropometrical indicators. We have weight for height, Z-scores, and we have the mid-upper arm circumference. If one of those two is below a certain cutoff, then the child is malnourished. Or, regardless of weight or height of mid-arm circumference, if the child has nutritional edema, then the child is also malnourished. So the cutoffs at the moment for weight for height, if they are between -3 and -2 Z-scores, you're moderate malnourished. If you're below -3 Z-score, you're severely malnourished. For the mid-upper arm circumference, if it is between 11.5 and 12.5 centimeters, you're moderate malnourished, and if it's below 11.5 centimeters, you're severely malnourished. It sounds all very simple. However, there might be a small problem. If a child is malnourished and both the weight for height Z-scores and the mid-upper arm circumference identify the same child, we're fine. We can use either the WHZ or we can use the MUAC, and we can leave the other one out. But what if it's not the case? What if the weight for height Z-score finds different children from MUAC? We need both of them, because otherwise we will be missing children. Let me show you a few examples. On the left, you see a community where one child is malnourished according to the weight for height, and there is one child, the green child, who is malnourished according to MUAC. If we are using only MUAC for screening, the child will be who is malnourished according to weight for height will be left out. But the opposite, if you use only weight for height for screening, the child with a low MUAC will be left out. And this is exactly the case as, for example, in Cambodia, where we found that of the over 200 children who were malnourished, only 10 were discovered by MUAC and weight for height at the same time. So leaving out MUAC in the detection would have left 40 children without treatment. Not using weight for height would have left 155 children without treatment. So that is a real issue. Today in Indonesia, screening is done by field health workers by MUAC, but not by weight for height. Weight for height is considered too complicated for village health workers You can have an opinion whether it is true or not, but at least that is what being considered. It's too cumbersome, too difficult. Health centers can perform weight for height measures, but then the patient needs to go to the health center and not stay in the community. Let's give you another example of what this means for policy, or what this means for treatment. Suppose we have 3 different villages. In the first villages, 1 child is malnourished according to MUAC, 1 child is according to weight for height Z-score. In the second village, 2 children are also malnourished, but both are malnourished according to weight for height. And in the third village, 2 children are malnourished, but according to MUAC and not according to weight for height. If we screen those 3 villages, we will find an overall, if we screen by MUAC, for example, or we screen only by weight for height, we will find 10% of SAM cases. But if we use both, we will find 20%, twice as much. And you see that it differs very much by village, whether we find malnutrition in a village or not. So how can we solve this? How can we make sure we find all children? I will come to that in a minute. There's one other problem with acute malnutrition. Children do not come in general to the health clinic unless they are sick, really having fever, etc. It's different from infectious diseases as malaria. People go to the health center to get treatment. For acute malnutrition, it's not the case. So we need to find a solution to get the right children who are malnourished to the health center. And what we came up for Cambodia is the following. We said, well, the mid-upper arm circumference is now being used for detection of malnutrition. Why can we not also use it for screening? But then we have a higher cutoff. So in Cambodia, we used a cutoff of 30.3 centimeters. So higher than the cutoff used for acute malnutrition. And we said the whole village is being screened. Children who have a MUAC above 30.3, they're fine. They don't have to go to the health center. But children who are less than this, they go to the health center and they're being remeasured. We measure them again for the mid-upper arm circumference, but we also measure them for weight for height. And by doing this, we were able to increase the sensitivity of screening from less than 10% to almost 70%. So 7 out of 10 children who were acute malnourished were really detected. Children who are severely acute malnourished would receive, of course, treatment. Children who were moderate malnourished would receive some supplementary feeding, and children who were neither acute, severely acute or moderate malnourished would receive counseling on good nutrition. So this was a 2-step screening, which worked really, really fine. What about Indonesia? As Ibu Damayanti showed, we did a study in Bogor where we used also screening. We screened over 6,000 children with MUAC, where we had a cutoff of 30.5 centimeters. So from the 6,000 children, 2,379 were sent to the health center for further screening, where we measured both MUAC again and we measured the weight for height. And of those, 460 had severe acute malnutrition. And this is interesting because think about it, when over 6,000 children should have been sent to the health center would have been overwhelmed by the amount of patients coming in. So by screening first with MUAC, we reduced the burden on the health center, and yet we screen by using this screening, we had a much higher chance of finding children who were acute malnourished. So to conclude, there are clear policy benefits for using MUAC with a higher cutoff for screening. More children are found, but there is less pressure on the health system. And the clear health benefits. More children are receiving treatment, which is really, really needed in Indonesia because we are really lacking behind in the number of children being treated. But we need data. And that is also a call to the audience. We need data on MUAC and weight for height Z-scores in the same child, because then we can optimize the cutoff. For Indonesia, has to be 30.3 as it was in Cambodia, 30.5 as we used in Bogor. At the moment, we do not know. And then, of course, there's the question, how do we train village health workers for correcting using the MUAC? And say, well, you are at risk of being malnourished. Maybe you need treatment, but maybe not. And that is something to be integrated in the protocols, as has been presented earlier today by Ibu Etta. I will leave it at this. And I hope that we can have a rich discussion, although we do not have much time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Frank Wieringa. All right, so that's very informative indeed. Shall we go through the questions, Pat Frank? I see
Yes.
there are 3 questions. The first one, it's partly addressed to me, but I think everybody here, we have a panel that can answer this one. So could we cure acute malnutrition? So I think from all the speakers, the answer is yes, we can address malnutrition. I would just like to touch on something. It's that, again, from a food product development side, is that one is, yes, if there's available products. But the second one is that, again, back to the local context, is that if the children who needs to consume this would consume it. Because like with Budama's talk, is that you can produce a really perfect product, but if you can't have, or if your children, your target consumers, they do not like it, then you have problems with compliance. It will not complete that whole duration for treatment, and then you'll have to find other variations or other products that would help them to comply. What are your thoughts, Frank?
Yeah, completely agree. Just one additional comment. The earlier start treatment, the easier it is. And that's why early detection in communities is so important. If you find a child who is moderate malnourished, almost severely malnourished, and you start treatment, it's easy. It can be done at home. You give the mother or the caregiver, you give to the food, and the child will most likely recover in a couple of weeks. If the child is really severely malnourished with complications, the child has to be admitted to hospital. There are complications. It's really, really an issue. So the earlier, the better.
Thank you. So the important one, earlier the better. Just like your talk, detection as early as possible, that would be crucial. Could I ask the stage managers to get all the speakers with us on screen? Because some of these questions, we'd like to hear either opinions and so on. Okay, thank you. We have Sylvia, we have Dr. Damayanti, we have Dr. Wieringa. Right, so let's go to the next question. Projects based in Indonesia, what would your recommendations be for other countries to start projects like yours? Do they start projects, collaborations, and so on? So we've heard voice from Indonesia. What are your thoughts, Frank? Go ahead.
Let me take that one quickly. We did acceptability trials of products in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and Indonesia, and every country likes something else. So there are different tastes, and for countries like Indonesia, probably it's even between provinces there are differences. So there is absolutely a need for more research on which products are best liked, because as Pakusu said, if a child doesn't eat it, treatment stops. So we must have healthy, nutritious products which are being eaten by the child. Outside Southeast Asia, I'm working in South Africa at the moment, where we're also using fish and see if we can use byproducts. They call it co-products, which I like very much. Co-product of fish, to be integrated in foods to treat malnutrition.
Thank you, Pak Frank. Budama, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think the issues are much the same in many countries. And as Frank already said, it needs to be locally acceptable. It needs to be feasible to produce in country. But I think the issues that we highlighted and the solutions that are being developed are really relevant for many other countries as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anything from you, Dr. Wieringa and Sylvia?
No, not what already has been mentioned. I think those are the most important things.
Thank you. Okay. Sylvia?
Yes, same here actually. And just underline that the study that we have conducted on the rice bran, it takes all this point. So we are working with a product that can have a beneficial in other way in a long term, but it's something that it's a co-product of a staple crop present in the country, and not just in Indonesia, but many other countries, because rice is staple crops in many countries in Southeast Asia, but even elsewhere, Latin America, where the problem of acute malnutrition is still, unfortunately, a real issue. So I think even to understand exactly the relevance of the product in terms of the food system and the properties within the treatment of acute malnutrition, it's just the basis. And I think we are addressing it in some other projects, many of them, fortunately.
Okay, thank you, Silvia. So again, touching on the importance of locally sourced, locally available resources, commodities, ingredients, and so on. Let's move on to the next question here, again from Ms. Maiza. Very interested in how to deal with collaborations with industry. Would you like to comment on that? Anyone? Before I give my voice on what we did. Anyone?
I can just give a very quick comment.
Go ahead.
It depends very much on the context. In Vietnam, we worked with the Ministry of Health, and it was the Ministry of Health who was producing. In Cambodia, we worked with a social enterprise, a very small enterprise, and upscaling was really an issue because, well, they didn't have the capacity to upscale. And I leave Indonesia to you, Pak Puspo.
Okay. So in what we learned over the years was that the mission of these companies, so even though they are business entities, some of them gravitate towards what can they do to build communities, because they also want to try to help contribute to a healthier consumer. So you will find a lot of companies dealing with nutritional missions, for example. They will invest in organizations that deals with nutrition and so on. So when you want to try to approach these companies, look into these organizations that have member companies that shows these kind of missions. That's one. The other one was that I think networking is really important, because they do have their missions, trying to help with nutrition, trying to help with health. At the end of the day, it's going back to what is the business side? How can you do business presentations to convince them that, yes, it makes business sense for them? You can also ask them, look, we need you to be on board because this is a problem that we need to tackle together. What are your concerns? What needs addressing? Maybe we need to talk to the ministry. We need to talk to other people. How can others help your business in making sense in producing these products? So those were from our experience, and those are some of the things that I'd like to share with everyone here. Others, perhaps, other experiences? No? Other voices?
I'm thinking we're almost at the end of our session. As usual, it goes too quick. Thank you very much. Also for the audience, thank you very much. And we need you. We need data, but we also need contact, collaboration with partners in Indonesia to move this forward. So please feel free to contact us. You can find our emails and our contact details on the website, I believe. And I'm really looking forward for the collaborations with all of you.
Yes, thank you. We're always welcoming everyone. Thank you, Pak Frank. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day, everyone.
Sampai